Welcome to Paradise in the Pines, a podcast about the people, places, and stories that make this the home of American golf. Brought to you by the Pinehurst Southern Pines Aberdeen Area Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Paradise in the Pines. I'm Phil Wers, President and CEO of the Pinehurst Southern Pines Aberdeen Area Convention and Visitors Bureau, and we're joined today by Crystal King of Crystal King Pottery from the Seagrove community. Crystal, you're a great friend of the CVB. I know you've been super busy as we are in early October, and we'll talk all about that. But thanks for coming in and joining us in Paradise in the Pines today.
Yeah, thank you for having me and to talk about all things Seagrove.
So it is Halloween time. It's October. This is one of your busiest times of the year. Talk about the pumpkin patch and that whole concept and how it keeps you busy from the end of summer right through Halloween.
It does. So for about 10 years now, we have been making pottery pumpkins, and that has just become a huge thing. We've even made it a trail, which incorporates 5 other pottery shops, plus multiples throughout Seagrove who continue to make pumpkins because they are so popular for this month. But that goes on for 3 weeks in October. So there are actually huge open houses for myself and some of the others where we have people that come from all over, drive 3-4 hours just to come for our Saturday open houses. What that means is we're making pumpkins for a month to a month and a half to have out for that day. And I set it up if the sun is out. We have beautiful hay bales set up on our side porch. It's a lovely setting. And people just enjoy seeing the variety, the colors, shapes, sizes, different glazes, and other fall items, too, that they might want to use in their home decor.
And you brought some of them with you here today. Talk about these and how you create these and how has it kind of changed and morphed over the years?
So my very first pumpkin patch was literally just 1 kiln load of one kind of small orange pumpkin that I had turned for American Craft Week to kind of
And when did you start that?
That's been over 10 years ago.
Okay.
I think it may be 11.
Yeah.
It's actually the anniversary for that. But what you see now is a decade of growth so that there's added glazes each year. I might launch a new glaze for each one that really excites customers, but a variety of sizes. And what's really interesting amongst the potters on the trails, each one has their own style.
Right.
So one potter may make gourds, one may do crystalline, one may do jack-o'-lanterns. But what my specialty has always been is hand building. So the leaves and vines and the extra added features that you see on mine, that's really kind of what my specific style is. So whether we have the white glaze with the green drips I did a buttercup yellow pumpkin this year, as well as these larger ones, which actually have the cutouts. They're open on the bottom so they can be a candle lantern. So we find that people enjoy kind of getting a different style from each of the potters.
They can collect them from
They
your...
collect them, yes. And they come in like, oh, what's the new thing this year? I want to see what it is.
Right.
But we actually had a line before we opened
Good.
this year. So having grown from the past few years, we were starting earlier, incorporating a few more potters to help out and just kind of growing the event. So it's really fun for me. So I love the fall. I love making these.
You mentioned the other potters. Let's give them some love, too. Who else is participating in this campaign this year?
So as part of the Potter's Pumpkin Patch Trail, we have, as well as Crystal King Pottery myself, we have Blue Hen Pottery, Bobby Thomas, Seagrove Stoneware, and Triangle Studios.
Okay.
And those all can kind of be viewed and looked at under the potterspumpkinpatch.com website.
Okay.
So you can kind of get a good view of it.
potterspumpkinpatch.com. Okay.
Yes.
And you're located, it's Pottery Highway, so I always know because you're one of the first ones when you're coming out of Moore County into Randolph County, you're right there on the right.
There.
So really easy to find. Are the other potters within 5-10 minute range?
They are. Each one of us are maybe 3 minutes from one another.
Okay.
So it's a nice little drive, easy to hit all of us, and to make a day of it. And just to see some amazing skill in crafting pottery into this fall decor of pumpkins, which is something you can leave out all season. That's what people comment for me.
You can go buy crystals, another potter, go have lunch at Kegel's, and then go see some more potters. Yes. Talk about, say, this one particular pumpkin. What does the process take? How long does it take you from beginning to end to make one? And how many did you make this year?
Okay, so it's about a 2-week process, start to finish. Because of that, I will turn batches. I may turn 10 medium pumpkins in one day. They have to be thrown on the potter's wheel, and they'll all be weighed out so that they're all the same size. But then the next day, they have to harden a little bit, what we call leather hard stage. That way we can kind of push on them without collapsing it, and then add on the stem, which I pull by hand, and for me, cutting out all the leaves and then adding the vines on. So I'd work on about 10 at a time, or even 10 a day, if I can keep the momentum going. But that's the easy part. What you really have to plan on is the firing of the kilns. So each of these batches has to be fired in a kiln for a full day up to 1,600 degrees, unloaded. Then you're painting them by hand, especially the stems and leaves, and then dunking them in maybe a clear coat glaze. And then that, again, is loaded in the kiln and fired for another 8-hour process, 2,000 degrees for me.
Wow.
Each of the potters have different process, but in general, that's 2 firings. So that takes over a week just for the firings. So you really have to be on top of it, planning it about 2 weeks ahead. So I'm going back today because we do a repeat for the second Saturday in October, and I'm still making pumpkins to make sure I have enough for all the people that would actually come out, make the drive for that event.
You say people drive from all around, and they come from around the country. I mean, Seagrove is internationally renowned. How many people would you say come this time of year? I mean, they come to Seagrove all times a year, but this is a special time with the fall and the pumpkin patch. So how many people would you anticipate coming every fall?
I mean, thousands over the day for the different potters. I know I had a line of maybe 60 people before I even opened the door. And then hundreds through the day, or let's say probably thousands through the day coming through to the end of the event, which I'm already hearing from people about. I hope you have more for next weekend. And I do. I work really hard to make sure that there's new batches coming through. So there's fresh stuff. Some of the best stuff is not gone. We're making more of it.
How many do you make? You might have mentioned this, but how many do you make for a particular campaign like this each year?
Upwards of 200. And
Wow.
that's, me making them by hand. So I may have help turning, which is kind of nice. So it's not just me doing everything. I could not produce enough, but we have gotten large enough where I have 3 other potters that will work for me turning during the week, or maybe even applying like a pumpkin onto a mug or onto a lantern. So with a team that I have, which are not there every day, that's usually like 1 day a week for each of them, but I have a team of 8 people that have helped this year. One of the fun things is that my father, who was a potter for 30 years, is now retired, and he knows I need the extra help, especially making larger pieces for me to decorate. So he has been turning at his place at King's Pottery, and I go by every day and pick up what he has made for me to bring back to my shop and hand decorate. So every pumpkin
little bit helps.
Yeah, and every pumpkin is decorated by me, all the stems and leaves and fired and glazed, but then I do have other people that help turn, or actually doing like the pumpkins onto the mugs and such. So it's become a production.
So big time for you, but in general, it's American Craft Week. So that's October 5th through the 13th. We record this on October the 7th. So talk about American Craft Week. What else is going on this time of year in Seagrove?
So American Craft Week come about, I think it's been 12 years that we started wanting to incorporate Seagrove into that. I mean, if it's a national American craft, what better place than to specifically be a part of it as Seagrove? And my idea back in the day to get the potters involved, because I help with an association creating events in Seagrove, was for me, it was for pumpkins. That's just because it was something that I personally could make.
Right.
For others, it might be to list their event if they allow you to watch them throwing on the wheel, to doing whatever craft it is that is specific to them. So if it's firing, maybe demonstrating raku, maybe it's that they've unloaded a kiln of their special work just for American Craft Week. And it's just it's from a national level, to be able to honor a day that makes you think about the crafters and the small businesses that are making their living through American craft, and that we really need people to think and respond to that, and to make a day, and it's actually for 2 weekends to come out to our special events and kind of be a part and take part. So I know that we have on discoverseagrove.com as our association within Seagrove, where the potters can list their special events that they are having for the days for American Craft Week, which is always the first 2 Saturdays in October.
I think what's really cool and special about Seagrove is that the potters are always so welcoming, and they want to show you the craft. It's not like you're going into your studio and looking at what you've produced and somebody's going to purchase that. Of course, you want that, but I think the engagement in being able to meet the consumer and ask you questions and actually see you demonstrate how you create these things is really what makes Seagrove so special.
I think that's true. I think Seagrove has always been that special place where the potters are working in their studios, and you are coming out to meet them in their studios, in their home ground, and to see their space. And I know personally that's something that means the world to me, is that people are coming into my place where I have created and where my creations are sitting, and we can have that engagement. Yeah. So it's not just that I've made it, it's that they are loving it back, and we're having that exchange together. I know that for me is where it's all at. I love those days when so many people come and they can take part, and I can see that they love the pieces and that they're giving it a new home.
I know this is a special time of year with the pumpkins, but when people come to Seagrove and come see you, say in April or January or June, what else will they see that you specialize in that you're proud of?
So one thing about the seasonal for me is that I do switch gears. Instead of making pumpkins through the year, I don't want to do that. I want to just make it during one season so that I can continue to enjoy when it comes back around. But after October, we have a very important event coming up in the fall. That's the celebration of Seagrove Potters. Mm-hmm. That, for me, has always been a time that I would have my animal sculpture and my other specialty pieces. For instance, I do octopus vases and sea turtle vases. I'm known for a lion sculpture that I've done since I was 14 years old. Sculptures of sheep and just many different animals. There's usually a zebra and a ram, different kinds of things. But that is my personal specialty. I grew up hand sculpting, and animals and that sort of thing was always what I did. So I will have a full booth full of work for that event with my special rare pieces just for the celebration of Seagrove Potters. I know a lot of the other potters do the same. They know that event is a special showcase for some of our best work. So for a month or two ahead, they're thinking ahead and they're thinking about showing off their best pieces, whatever that specialty is, whether it's crystalline, if it's wood fire, if it's just, their gorgeous glazes. Each of the Seagrove Potters really has their own thing that they're known for, what separates them from the rest. And that showcase is one of our best places to come and see it all at one time. Although through the year we are open and our shops are usually full with all the gorgeous works that we are doing. But I know that when we have a show, we are specifically on target trying to show our best items.
It's a celebration of Seagrove Potters. It's the 17th annual, so it's around Thanksgiving time. This year is November 22nd through the 24th. So when you're here, your family's here, what a great opportunity to go up the Pottery Highway, Pottery Trail to go see our friends up in Seagrove. It's a 3-day event. So Friday, there's a ribbon cutting for the new event hall that you have. Yes. So talk about the new event hall.
Okay, so for a couple years, we used to have a big factory in Seagrove called Lux Pinto Beans. And once that business went out, the buildings had been sitting. The town council and resources around Seagrove have really worked hard to renovate that as a community space. For a couple years, we've had the front addition open, but it would only house about 25 of our potters under one roof for our big event. This year, the second phase, which is now called the Lael Comer Lux Center, has now finally been finished and completed, which is a big deal. We're going to have a ribbon cutting on the Friday evening, and to launch that this I think it's been a 4 or 5 year project, is now open, and that space actually holds 35 of booths for the local Seagrove Potters to be under one roof at one time for the show again. Yeah. And since this is 17 years of show, we're really glad to be as big as we have been in the past, back under one roof, having this special weekend together, which also is a studio tour. So we have morphed that into all the shops are open, so the driving tour is part of it. Some of the potters will just be at their shops. They've chosen just to be there with their special event for the weekend. So you can drive around to those that special tour for the weekend. But at the Lux Cannery, there will be about 30 to 35 potters under one roof, all Seagrove Potters, of course. But that center is such a great addition to our community. It also houses, anyone can rent it for their venue. And we're really, just so grateful to have that space in our community to use for different things. And
you could go to discoverseagrove.com, buy tickets. There's a gala dinner.
Yes.
Talk about that and what that's going to entail.
So because of this larger space, we are able to bring our gala dinner back this year. We've not had it for a few years because of space issue. But the gala dinner is actually our collaborative auction. So it is a dinner. You do buy tickets for the gala, as well as it's the collaborative auction. So the auction is for the Seagrove Potters. We're in the works right now because of everything happening in Western North Carolina that we may be able to give some of the proceeds from the auction this year to some of our artist friends. We have so many that we know very closely that are affected. So as this pans out, we may be giving a percentage of our collaborative auction to friends in Western North Carolina. But what's amazing about the auction, one of the funnest parts is it's collaborative. So what that means is that the Seagrove potters will pick another Seagrove potter to work together on. And that means the works of arts that come out for this auction, probably around 20 pieces, will be joint effort with two potters combining their special skill.
Interesting.
Yeah, so these one-of-a-kind pieces.
I was going to say one-of-a-kind
very
pieces.
Very one-of-a-kind pieces. And through the years when we did that, we had just some amazing pieces to come to. You don't want to miss it. We will probably
Who's working with Fred Johnston? Because he's a character.
Yes, he is working with someone. I'm not sure who he's working with. I know I'm working with.
Shouldn't see what that's going to look like.
Jinsung Kim.
Okay.
Yeah, Jinsung Kim from Seagrove Art Pottery, and I'm doing one.
Do you all talk about it beforehand, or?
Well, we do. There's a committee that organizes the potters so that they can kind of put their creative juices together and come up with something amazing. And as we get these pieces out, maybe about, a couple weeks ahead, they will be on the website where you can read about them, see them, and then, of course, they will be part of the live auction that night.
That's awesome. And then Saturday and Sunday, you got the Potter's Market demonstrations, kids booth, food trucks, and more.
Yes.
9 to 5 on Saturday, 10 to 4 on Sunday. So it's a big weekend, celebration of Seagrove Potters. Again, go to discoverseagrove.com. Find out more information, buy the tickets, go all 3 days. It's certainly well worth it.
And you can buy your ticket for Saturday and Sunday just at the door.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. And I would expect hundreds of people will attend that.
Oh, thousands.
It'll sell out.
I think it's around 4,000 or 5,000 for the weekend.
So get your tickets. I want to transition a little bit to these pottery pine cones. We call them crystal cones because Crystal King is producing them. But this was part of the Great Trails State of North Carolina. It's the first year of this organization, just went to their first annual conference. It really celebrates the trails throughout all of North Carolina. We have 32 trails in Moore County. And just like we do with the Pinecone Pathway Program in the spring, the glass pine cones that are made by our friends at Starworks, Crystal has made special, in the midst of all these pumpkins and everything she's got going on, we approached her and said, hey, Crystal, can you make 30 pottery pine cones? They're sitting right here. These are 2 of the 30 that are going to be out on Moore County trails. There's a dozen trails. We'll make the announcement the night before, so nobody's out. I guarantee you, people will be out there with flashlights and headlights, things like that, to try to find these. But these will be hidden on 12 trails of the 32 in Moore County. They will be tagged. I've got a beautiful picture of Crystal holding up a plate of these pottery pine cones, the crystal cones, and on the back there's a QR code. So when you register this, when we're looking at that, Dan, I'll hold it up. Can you hold it up? And so Dan's holding that close to the camera there so you can get a good idea. But talk about how you made these. There's a video we've posted online about how you made these, but for those that have not seen it or want to go look for it later, how did you create these 30 crystal cones?
So first of all, it was such an honor to be asked because I'm a big nature girl.
Oh, thank you.
I'm on the trails all the time. I love taking my kids and that's my place of peace. So when I need some balancing, I'm always hitting the trails. So when you ask, I was like, I would love to do it just because I love the whole idea behind this project. But I do know that Starworks did some lovely pine cones for you last year, and that's a hard act to follow when they're glass blowing. They're these beautiful pine cones. So I committed to doing the project, but then I had to figure out what would look beautiful as a ceramic or in pottery pine cone, but also what would be unique for me.
Right.
And I went through whole ideas of actually molding them and that sort of thing, and had a little trouble finding resources for that. And then we just kept going back to the fact that hand building is my specialty in sculpture. That, how hard would it be to just sculpt all of these by hand? And over time, we were able to figure out.
Yeah, go ahead.
If I can pick it up.
Sure.
Figure out that to get the kind of idea of an illusion of the pine cone, that we could use scissors, which is, I think, a bread
That was amazing
technique.
to see that.
And,
yeah.
And let me tell you, months and months before that actually come to us, a girl that works for me and apprentices with me was the one who had made a little sculpture using that herself. And I'm like, wait a minute, that looks like a pine cone.
Yeah.
And so we were able to kind of test and do that and come up with the idea. They are hollow inside, how to hollow that out, but then also the coloration. So we wanted to do one kind of glaze, which we came up with and picked from about 5 different prototypes. This one is called, we named it Burst of Autumn. And the idea was that is if they're all the same this year, and it makes the orangish color is fallish, but makes it easy to find. So if they want them to be visible. But if we ever needed to do it again, then we can maybe do a different glaze, and it would still be part of that limited edition collection.
Right.
So that people
and they
would
are
know.
individually stamped with your stamp.
They have the stamp and they have the date on the side. So I love the idea that you can even scan the QR code and then see the video that put together with a little more detail.
So when folks find these, and we always ask a limit one pine cone. If you find another one, leave it there for somebody else. When you scan the QR code and you load up your picture, because of the tragedy in the wake of Hurricane Helene, for every person that finds one of these pine cones and lists it registered on the website, we're going to give $25 to the North Carolina Disaster Relief Fund. And if you go out there with your kids and they want to make a sign that says, we're thinking about you, Western North Carolina, if you don't find a pine cone, but you upload a picture of you with that sign on the trail, we will add an additional $10 for each one of those pictures of somebody holding up a sign, wishing everyone well in Western North Carolina. We know it's going to take, it's a long recovery process. It may take years. And that's a big arts community too, as you know. So I know that a lot of people's hearts go out. I mean, I lived in Nashville for 6 years, so it has a special place in my heart. Swannanoa was hardly one of the hardest hit areas, and it was underwater, and seeing it on TV, it's just heartbreaking. So, but we appreciate you taking time to do these pine cones. They have special significance, and now they're going to have a significance because they're going to allow a little bit of relief to Western North Carolina.
I love that you've done that. That's wonderful.
Let's talk about Seagrove and your background. You've been a part of this. It's been part of your heritage, your family's heritage for generations. Let's talk about how you got involved with it.
Okay, yeah. So I'm really fortunate. My parents went to apprentice to become potters at one of the old shops. It was Seagrove, called Seagrove Pottery, with Dorothy and Walter Allman when I was 5 years old. And I remember the first moment that they went in to interview with them, and they literally sit me in a back room with a lump of clay and to kind of keep myself entertained. And when they came back, they were shocked to find that I had on my own sculpted a small elephant. So it showed that I already had some creative flow in myself, and that was going to come out. But for years, and I really think being an only child, I was right there with my parents as they were building their business. I was there after school every day. I went to every show, and my parents actually got into folk art, which means face jugs, and the folk art community, which was really strong in North Carolina and in South Carolina, Georgia area. So we would tour and do shows, and my parents really enjoyed visiting other folk artists, so I was right there with them. But I was an industrious little kid, always kind of playing in the clay, making animals, and helping my parents out. So by the age of my early teenage years, I was sculpting some larger pieces that were starting to get attention because it was true folk art coming just from a love of it and being exposed in that family. So I just continued, building those items in my name up through the chance to decide to do this, which was coming out through high school. And so I feel just so lucky that I had that background, but also that I took it, that I didn't have the distractions that so many kids have today. And I was able to kind of hone in on it, and which has allowed me to do what I do now. So sculpting was always kind of the specialty for me, and that really, for the animal sculpture and that sort of thing, put me in a niche market that really kind of helped get me attention through those early years, enough to kind of to build a career. Yeah. So this is my 25th year of having my own shop in Seagrove. So my parents ran King's Pottery and they just retired 3 or 4 years back. But wood fire, folk art, hand sculpting, and doing functional Seagrove style pottery, which is how they learned. Yeah. That is a tradition that's kind of been handed to me. So I still do that, but I was able to kind of build that niche of animal sculpture that was really interesting to people, that has allowed me to have a career for 25 years. But now I'm very interested in really kind of keeping that alive. Yeah. As I've seen my parents' generation retire, some of those shops are closing, ones that I always felt were the kind of institution of Seagrove. Like, to see so many of them retiring and the scene of Seagrove changing, you wake up one day and you realize, like, you're the next generation. Right. And so there, with that is like this purpose in my heart to advocate for Seagrove and artists in general, but also because I have been there my whole life and had the privilege of being a part of some of the old shops when my parents were learning, is to kind of advocate to continue the history, to remind people of the historical significance of Seagrove. So it is the largest continuous tradition of working pottery, passed down heritage, which is what makes Seagrove unique and special. So you do have, it was fathers to sons handing down the trade, and then eventually, as the family unit got smaller and pottery transitioned from necessity of jugs and churns to now art pottery, it transitioned into then fathers to daughters, and then on to all the cousins. And what you had were these old families that were handing down the tradition, and now it may be from handing the tradition to apprentices or others that work. What is fascinating to me is to see that you really do hand down a look, a specific regional style that is unique to Seagrove, and that it is surviving and evolving over all of this period of time. And if you really get into the history of it, you can see that evolution and to see that it's still alive, but with now the fact of art being more, and just instead of just general functional pottery, everyone is gravitating more to finding their own artistic style. And so you see that becoming more of even the Seagrove story, is what is the new art style. And it's fascinating to watch and to chart it as it's handed down through the generations. And
when we talk off camera, you're very passionate about the Seagrove and the passion and the talent of the art itself. Concern, as you just expressed, that, is the next generation going to adopt this? How much is it like the digital side change things? Because, generations before, they didn't have, the internet and social media and all this other stuff that are distractions that, to focus on the craft and the art and to keep passing it down. Do you see, is there any threat you believe in generations to come that Seagrove, is going to stay alive?
I don't know if it's a threat as much as it is when I think about the digital and how it's changed now that you can look up any style of pottery. You can be inspired by anything you see on the internet. You can also get recipes and how-to videos on any style. So what originally made Seagrove so special was they were all learning this handed down tradition, one to the next. So it had a very specific regional look. And now, if you make pottery, you can gravitate toward any style. So I think the future of Seagrove will be that you will have a handful that kind of continues the older traditional style, and then you will have, which is necessary because people are interested in the more artistic side of things. So then we're going to have this variety of other styles that pop up because Seagrove is a community that can help potters make a living and survive in this pocket. So we have actually seen that where everyone had the same style, and now there's just such a variety of such skilled potters in one pocket. And it's not all people who are from Seagrove, but people who have moved in, people with degrees from other art institutes, people from actually other countries that have come in who've brought international style. And I think we have you can't say award-winning, but we really have such a variety of top-notch artisans in Seagrove living, and it's just a different community than it was 20 years ago. But it's also a surviving and thriving community. It's just kind of evolving into a whole new thing. And that's going to be interesting to look at in 100 years.
Sure.
Where it goes.
Right. And I think, for our perspective as a Convention Visitors Bureau for tourism, you're in Randolph County and heart of North Carolina, does a great job of promoting that. Susan Dozier does a great job on the PR side there as well. But from Moore County here, even though we're the home of American golf, we're still, we're all about golfers here for the most part, but we also want to, we share the story of Seagrove as well and send people your way. And I think as the county continues to grow in the Robbins community and up towards Seagrove, I think you're going to see more visitors over the course of time.
I have always seen the Pinehurst area and the Sandhills as an extension of Seagrove, or Seagrove as an art extension of your area. I know for 100 years, you could pinpoint the people from Pinehurst area that retire, move here, bring their families, they are meccaing to Seagrove to fill their homes with beautiful art. And that has always been there, there's this connection between us. And so I want to continue that definitely. We're just a short distance, nice country drive away.
Right.
And we have so much to offer for all the new people that are moving to the area, and they fill their homes with the beautiful artwork that we have to offer. It has always been a huge amount of visitors from your area that come up. And I mean, it is noted in history how much impact that it always had on the Seagrove community for keeping us alive.
Well, I tell you what, I always, when I go to Seagrove, either on the way up or the way back, I stop by Kalawi Farm and get ice cream or go by the farmer's market. So there's plenty of opportunities to do that. Congratulations on 25 years. I didn't realize it was 25 years, but congratulations. So in the time we have left, let's go through. So right now you've got the annual Pottery Pumpkin Patch. It's going to go on for how long?
It's always it's the 3 weekends in October.
Okay, so we've got still through October
We have 2 more
12th,
weekends,
19th,
yep.
2 more weekends to go on that. And then we've got the Great Trail State Day. Everybody at the conference had a hard time saying that. Great Trail State Day. Saturday, October 19th. It's just one day. We're going to hide these 30 pottery pine cones, the crystal cones, and it will benefit victims of Hurricane Helene. And then the 17th annual celebration of Seagrove Potters. That's November 22nd through the 24th. Go to discoverseagrove.com for tickets.
That's right.
Awesome. Have we wrapped it up? Anything else you want to add before we
I
close?
think that's everything. We had a lot going on, but we got it all.
We did. Well, Crystal, as always, you're a great friend of the CVB. We appreciate everything you do, not only for your business, for the Seagrove community, but for tourism in the Sandals of North Carolina. Great to see you.
Yes, thanks.
Well, if you want to learn more about tourism in Moore County and Randolph County, you can go to homeofgolf.com. If you want to see our videos, go to Home of American Golf. And this has been Paradise in the Pines, and we'll see you next time.